All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most secret, most misunderstood, and, let's be honest, most extreme rituals in all of Tantra. It's a practice that really pushes the absolute limits of spirituality, forces us to confront our deepest fears, and makes us question everything we think we know about life, death, and what's pure or impure. So what exactly is Shava Sadhana? Well, the definition is pretty stark. It's a spiritual meditation, a sadhana, performed while sitting on top of a human corpse. Now, that is intentionally shocking, and that shock is actually a huge part of its purpose. But this isn't just about being macabre for the sake of it. It's a very highly structured ritual with a profound, if pretty unsettling goal. And that, of course, brings us to the big question, the question that probably popped into your head immediately. Why? Why on earth would anyone willingly put themselves through such a terrifying and taboo experience? Well, to get to the answer, we have to start peeling back some really fascinating layers of esoteric philosophy. Shava Sadhana really stands at the peak of what you might call esoteric tantra. It's considered one of the most important, most challenging, and most secret rituals, and it's deliberately placed way out on the fringes of Orthodox religion. Now, because it's so out there, so transgressive, it gets mistaken for black magic all the time. And look, some sources do mention it being used for gaining worldly power or material things, but its primary, stated purpose is spiritual enlightenment. The confusion comes in because the whole practice is designed to operate in this really strange gray area, right between earthly power and total spiritual freedom. So to really understand the why behind this, we need to know what philosophical school it even belongs to. See, this isn't just some random isolated ritual. It is the ultimate expression of a very specific spiritual path known as Vamachara. This gets us to a really fundamental split in tantric practice. You've got the right-hand path, or Dakshinachara, which follows all the conventional social and religious rules. But Shiva Sadhana, that belongs to the left-hand path, Vamachara, which does the exact opposite. It intentionally uses things that society labels as impure or taboo, like meat, wine, and yes, in this extreme case, a corpse, as tools to literally shatter the practitioner's conditioning and force a spiritual breakthrough. Okay, so we've touched on the why. Let's get into the how. Now, you might imagine that an act this forbidden would be chaotic. But the reality is the complete opposite. Shava Sadhana is a meticulously, almost surgically controlled process. I mean, just look at the discipline here. The choice of the corpse is incredibly specific, often a young person who died a violent death, because that's believed to make the ritual more potent. The timing is precise, a new moon night, alone in a cremation ground. And the corpse isn't just used, it's worshipped, invoked as a vessel of divine energy. The meditation is laser-focused, and afterward, the body is treated with respect. This isn't desecration. In their view, it's a highly disciplined spiritual technology. But all of that control exists for a very, very good reason. The risks are astronomical. The texts are crystal clear on this. One small mistake, one broken rule, can lead to death or complete insanity. The sheer terror of the experience alone can be enough to break someone's mind. And that's why, and this is so important, this is never ever done lightly or alone. It requires the absolute guidance of an expert spiritual teacher, a guru. So we've seen the meticulous steps and the extreme dangers. This brings us right back to the core question. What is the psychological endgame here? Well, it's nothing less than a direct, head-on assault on our most fundamental human fear. At its heart, you can think of Shiva Sadhana as a kind of radical spiritual exposure therapy. By sitting on a corpse, the ultimate symbol of our own mortality, in the dead of night, the practitioner forces a confrontation with death in the most intense way you can possibly imagine. The goal is to become so intimate with death that the fear of it is just dismantled, completely erased, leading to a state of total fearlessness. And this is where it gets so brilliant. Every element is symbolically transformed, flipped on its head. The corpse, which we'd normally see as impure, is reconsecrated as a vessel of divine feminine energy, or Shakti. The cremation ground, a place of fear, becomes a sacred space where the line between life and death just dissolves. Even the skull is seen as a divine object, symbolizing the need to shed our ego. The ritual just systematically inverts everything to force a new way of seeing. Now, these ideas can feel pretty abstract, I know. So let's look at a historical figure who reportedly took this practice and grounded it in his own life, turning all this esoteric theory into a profound personal experience. This is the story of Ramprasad Sen, a famous poet and a huge devotee of the goddess Kali. And while he's known for writing these beautiful, heartfelt songs, Shakta folklore says he also undertook this most extreme ritual to get a direct vision of the goddess he adored. This quote this quote is the key to understanding the whole thing. Ramprasad isn't just talking about a physical place. He's making this incredible connection between the outer ritual and what's happening inside him. He is actively turning his own heart into a cremation ground. And that's the crucial point. The external act, sitting in a physical cremation ground, is meant to trigger an internal one. The heart shmashana, the burning ground of the heart, is where the practitioner metaphorically burns away their own ego, their greed, their anger, their attachments. The outer fire just mirrors the inner fire of purification, clearing a space inside for the divine to finally come in and dance. So let's bring all these different threads together. We've looked at the what, the why, the how, and the personal experience. So, what is the ultimate philosophical destination of this incredibly radical journey? The ultimate goal is to get to a state of non-duality. By meditating on the most impure object imaginable, the practitioner wants to realize that these categories, pure and impure, are just constructs, just ideas in our minds. The goal is to see the divine in everything, to transcend all the pairs of opposites that define our normal lives, life and death, good and evil, and to experience one, single, unified, absolute reality. So while Shava Sadhana is without a doubt one of the most extreme spiritual practices in the world, it leaves all of us with a really powerful question. You don't have to go sit on a corpse to learn from its logic. So what can this radical approach teach us about confronting our own fears, our own attachments, and the lines we draw between what we accept and what we reject in our own lives?